My friend Kurt Schlichter, he is a columnist over at Town Hall, an attorney, a veteran, and he also has a new book out too. And we're going to talk all about that and we'll get into his pieces as well. Crisis is the book that he has. It's a part of a series that he's been doing. It's a great piece. Good to see you, my friend. I'm loving the sunny background, Kurt.
I know. I'm sitting here going, wait a minute, there's this giant shadow across me. Holy
I like
cow,
it.
Much like there's a shadow across the conservative movement lately. And it must be dispelled, Dana. You're absolutely right. It must be dispelled.
I have to ask you before I get into some of the voting stuff. You're out there in California. What is it with all your elected officials not wanting to follow the and what the hell is up with French Laundry? Why do people go there? It's like $300 per plate. Do they chew the food for you?
Oh my gosh. And it's like, we have a pate bechamel with hearts of anchovies and artichokes and root vegetables. It's like, I just want a cheeseburger. I'm a simple guy. I don't know. Look, I'm a military guy too. You got to lead by example. I remember when I was commanding a battalion, me and Sergeant Major ate last. Everybody else got taken care of. You set the example. So it really grinds me when I see these mayors and these governors telling us, yeah, you're going to kill your whole family if you have Thanksgiving. And then, they're caught with like a drumstick in their pie hole.
Yeah.
It's just, come on. Come on. And what it tells us, hypocrisy does two things. It validates the underlying value, but it also shows people that, well, maybe it's not that important. And then you get people who start thinking it isn't important. Look, I had COVID. It was a week ago I got tested and cleared. It's a real disease. For some people, it's very dangerous, and we should act in a sensible manner, determined by ourselves. I hate this one-size-fits-all things. I was having somebody lecture me the other day, and I was like, well, what's my status? Can I catch COVID? And this person didn't know, and the fact is I can't. I've had it. So why is this person on the other side of the continent presuming to tell me what to do? And why is there this giant one-size-fit-all idea? I got a better idea. How about all of us decide? Because frankly, Gavin Newsom has shown that, by his own standards, he doesn't have the best judgment.
Yes, doesn't have the best judgment, and apparently neither do the San Jose mayor, the San Francisco mayor, another LA County executive. All of these, all of these people.
Yep.
Yeah, and and of course here, I mean, it's not just California. We have a couple of judges here in Texas, including the county judge for the county in which I live, that extended the mask mandate, but yet they don't follow any of these rules for themselves. I have to touch on, Kurt, I'm going to switch gears on you because I love the point that you made in a tweet to what would, I guess, Biden's pick for press secretary, Jen Psaki. She was pictured with a Yushchenko that has a hammer and sickle on it, and the media went out to say, well, it's out of context. Her response was kind of weird because she was saying that if you criticize her for wearing a Yushchenko that has a hammer and sickle on it, that you're basically a puppet for Putin. I loved what you said, though, because you're like, yeah, I fought the Cold War. I served. I fought in the Cold War. I did it. Yeah. If you're wearing a Yushchenko given to you by a communist and it has a hammer and sickle on it, I loved your response.
Well, I'm always sensitive about the Russian thing because it's inevitably someone who wasn't in Germany with me. I was in part of 7 Corps when the wall fell down. I was like literally in the Cold War, and I get lectured by these little Vox writers who are suddenly, born again anti-communists. I know how to defeat a motor rifle regiment using an army battalion or company. So, and these guys, they're wearing these little hats. Dana, would you wear a hat with a swastika on it? I would never do that. And in the murder sweepstakes, if the communists aren't right up there even with the Nazis, they've exceeded them. So I don't think it's cute or funny. Yeah. She can wear what she wants, but what she can't do is lecture me and get me going, well, yeah, I guess that's a good point. No, you're a hypocrite. You're a weasel. You're a moral illiterate. Don't you presume to lecture me. You don't have the credentials.
I love that. And she doesn't have the credentials. And it's just, we were told that if you wore a red hat, that somehow was like an outward symbol of Nazism, of inner Nazism, or that person was a racist. But that no context was given. I mean, they even said that about a teenager.
No
CNN
context.
did. Yeah, no context. But when has that courtesy ever been extended to like the administration or anybody else, Kurt?
Well, look, our culture has become a giant game of Calvin ball, where the media and the establishment simply decides that rules exist for us, but not for them, and that's everything from dining out on your pate at the French Laundry to wearing hideous symbols of mass murder, and this is why we're no longer playing. The establishment is stunned that we have no respect for the institutions. But my question is, what have you done to earn them? Which, of course, makes them even madder because they don't believe they have to earn anything. Remember, our society is being run by a bunch of cultural trust fund babies.
Yes.
They didn't build these establishments. They didn't sweat or bleed for them. They just inherited them, so to speak, by going to Harvard or Yale and being handed the keys to the Buick. And suddenly, all these uppity peasants aren't respecting them. Well, what have they done that deserves respect? Why would I respect them? Why would I obey them? There's a social contract out there. I don't see them meeting their obligations. What would ever possess you to think that I'll meet my alleged obligations?
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to look at Georgia because you've been talking about the election integrity. I keep watching, Kurt. I keep watching these videos of these individuals in Michigan and Pennsylvania and elsewhere who are testifying under penalty of like jail time or a fine about the irregularities and just straight up sketchy things that they saw. And it's amazing that we don't have a quote unquote free press that is interested in, for instance, the guy who was driving the truck from New York to Pennsylvania. Like what in the world's happened? Why is that not a story? I mean, he's not a political animal. He's just coming out telling people what happened.
Well, somewhere along the way, Dana, the media figured out, gosh, we can get away with it. We can just not report the news. 20 years ago, they would have grudgingly done it. I mean, look at Monica Lewinsky and then compare what happened with Hunter Biden. They simply said, hey, what if we don't say anything about it? Now, you can get away with that for a little while because it's a novel invention. It's like ballot harvesting in California. We got sideswiped here in 2018. The Democrats made it legal. They did it. In 2020, we were ready because the rules had changed, and now we're ready to play by them. I'm watching on the screen as you're showing things like my Parler handle. We're creating our own network, and your show, of course. We're creating our own networks. We're creating our own information. We are creating our own paradigm, and that's because we can't rely on a generally accepted one. Right. I would prefer we not need an alternative media. I would prefer that we just have a media with a bunch of different voices. But in fact, we do need an alternative media because it's the alternative to the establishment. The media is the tool of the establishment, and it sees its job as promoting the establishment and suppressing information that will undercut the establishment's authority. That's what it's doing with this electoral stuff. Now, before I caught COVID, I was out in Nevada working for the president. The fact is there are massive irregularities to this election. And look, I make no secret of it. It is a huge uphill fight to win in court to get the president a second term starting in 2021. 2025 is a different matter. That is just a objective fact. But that doesn't mean that there's no evidence. That doesn't mean there are no problems. It means that the procedures we have in place to solve them are ill-suited to this situation.
Right.
But they are the procedures. The fact is we need to pursue these because we need to get that information out there. Then we need to act on it. We can't just forget this. In February, well, that was a pain. Well, let's stumble on. No, we need to make election fairness and election integrity a priority. You pointed out that Texas managed to count all its votes in a week, and Fulton County's still counting. Yeah. That's ridiculous. By the way, California only finished one congressional race here in LA County like 2 days ago.
Math
Mike
is
Garcia.
hard.
Thankfully, he won.
Yeah. Matthew, I want to ask
it,
you something to that point, because you bring up, we're talking with Kurt Schlichter. You can follow him at Kurt Schlichter on Twitter, find him at Town Hall as well. You bring up a really good point in how it is an uphill fight. And I was relaying earlier in a previous segment, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's, an advisor, does the DC thing, hates DC though. And they were telling me, well, if that it looks like, instead of just like one massive fraud, there's a bunch of little stuff, slight irregularities, just enough, here and there, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I told my friend, just exploring it, I said, oh, so how do they keep that many people quiet if that many people are in on it? Or, and this is what I want to get your opinion on, the rhetoric that we've seen from the left, where if you opposed Obamacare, you were a Nazi. You were a racist Nazi. If you didn't believe in the Green New Deal, you wanted everyone to die, and I guess asteroids were going to pummel the earth. You're a horrible person. The issue can't be separated from the person. Anyone who doesn't go in lockstep with progressive ideology is a Nazi. Is it possible that you would have a lot of people out there, maybe involved in elections, that truly think Trump is Nazi? He is a horrible person. He's going to kill so many people. And because of all of that rhetoric, let's just throw some votes out here. Let's just throw some of these ballots out. I mean, it's sad to say, but that's kind of where we are.
I think there's a real possibility of that. Look, there are esoteric and not super exciting irregularities about, setting the verification standards on the optical scanners who compare signatures, all the way up to people driving in and dumping in a bunch of votes. But here's something interesting. What is the name of a major Democrat who said, well, cheating to have Trump lose the election would be wrong? I haven't seen that. I mean, is there one out there who said, well, if you could prove that the election was fraudulent, then he should be reelected? I haven't seen that. And the logic is kind of, if Trump is literally Hitler, and that's what they're saying, if he's literally Hitler, aren't they kind of morally obligated, if not go back in time and kill baby Hitler, maybe massage the rules a little bit to get him out of the way? I mean, aren't you required to do that? I mean, wouldn't if you could, wouldn't you, quote unquote, cheat to make Hitler lose the election and not come into power in Germany? And that's kind of the logic of their position. If Trump really is literally Hitler, why would it be wrong to cheat in the election? And I haven't heard anybody explain, no, we shouldn't cheat. I mean, I've looked for it. And I find that interesting that nobody says, well, if Trump had won fair and square, he'd be legitimate. Now, we know what happened in 2016. He won fair and square, and he was never legitimate.
Yeah.
So I think you bring up a good point. And again, it's this changing of the rules where they assume the status quo is going to remain the same for everybody else, but we're just going to move this important goalpost a little bit. But everybody else is going to abide by the rules. That's not how human nature works.
Yeah, not at all. Your book, Crisis, it's Kelly Turnbull, book 5. It's out Kindle and paperback. It's the #1 new release in political thrillers. Congratulations on that. Tell us
about I got to 29 on all of Amazon. I was pretty amazed for a little right-wing novel with a hero who runs around with guns and making smart remarks.
You got a red, white, and blue cover.
Liberals.
Yeah, you have the red, white, and blue cover. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I know. I trigger everybody.
But this book, it's the Kelly Turnbull series, and this is because you have 4. This is the 5th one, so there are 4 others.
This is the 5th one.
Where do you get this time, by the way? Also, because you're an attorney, and then you were just in Nevada a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I had COVID for 2 weeks, so
you didn't write this book in 2 weeks.
Took a lot of stuff off my plate. But look, I'm a good time manager, and I got to tell you, these books are fun to write. These books are inspired by our mutual friend Andrew Breitbart in a way, and I thank him in every book because he said, "Look, we conservatives can't just sit around there and complain that there's nothing we want to read. But if you're going to do conservative stuff, if there's a conservative, and these are conservative action novels, you got to make them fun."
Yeah.
I wanted to have the fun of the airplane book. You get on the plane. You're flying across the country. You got 3 hours to kill. You want to read something exciting, something a little bit funny. I wrote the books I wanted to read. And frankly, a lot of other people wanted to read them. I'm selling them like hotcakes. You go on Amazon, get them on Kindle, get them on paperback. And the thing is, they're fun. It's not a Bataan death march. There's no hugging at the end where everybody says we've learned an important lesson about the importance of a free enterprise. It's
just good fun,
and you have an appearance in it.
What?
You are in chapter 2. And it's frankly hilarious.
I am so excited about this.
You are in it.
I'm so excited about it. I just started like the last book that Walter Williams had written, but I may actually, I know he just passed away.
What a loss.
I know. I bet I'm gonna have to start yours now. Now that you told me that.
I think you're going to see it, and I think you're going to laugh, and that's part of it.
Exactly.
Why should conservatism be the domain of these bow-tied weenies like David French?
I gotta get going. They're gonna boot me here in a minute because we're up against the end of this hour. Kurt Schlichter. The book is Crisis. It's the 5th in the Kelly Turnbull series. You can get it on Amazon where books are sold. Kurt, always appreciate you, my friend. Happy belated Thanksgiving,
Thanks for having me.
The best of the family.